Hello, in this video I will talk about listening and give overall information about this section of the IELTS exam. So, listening is the first of the main test that you will do if you're gonna take a computer-based IELTS. Your screen will look like this. You will have the recording on top of the screen and you will get the task under. And if you are gonna take a paper based, you will have this answer sheet, but you will also have an answer booklet. So when you do your listening, you will write your answers on the booklet, but in the listening part, which lasts around 30 minutes, you will be given extra 10 minutes at the end of that section for paper-based IELTS. So you can transfer your answers from the booklet to this answer sheet. But for computer-based, you won't have that because you will be putting answers and the computer will be automatically collecting them to the data. And that's all. Let's talk about the content. So what you're gonna do in listening. So overall there are 4 sections and each of them has 10 questions. And in section 1 you will hear 2 people having a conversation and it's gonna be on a daily topic, which is gonna be very easy for you to understand. An example might be finding out information about travel. So yeah, it's about someone asking another person for advice, for service, just trying to find out what they can do with something. And section 2 is gonna be a monologue. It's just one person speaking on a general topic. So their speech is pretty simple too. It might be a radio broadcast or a weather forecast, etc. And we've got section 3. It's gonna be a conversation again, similar to section 1, between 2 or even 3 people in an academic context. So they might be discussing an assignment, a project from school, university, so in an academic context. And section 4, you're gonna hear one person speaking, similar to section 2, a monologue. But again, similar to section 3, it's gonna be in an academic context. So it might be a lecture or a talk on an academic topic. Yes. Okay, now we are familiar with the types of information we might get and also the parts and overall how many questions. Now let's talk about types of question in listening. As you can see here, we've got them all on the screen and here are the examples of them. As you can see, the first, choose a correct letter. This is an example of a multiple choice task, and choose 2 letters A to E. So this is also a multiple choice task because you are choosing. The first one is with 1 choice, the second one here is with 2 choices. Sometimes they might ask you to choose 3 letters, then it will be 3 choices. And also we've got map labeling, as you can see here, also a plan labeling. Sometimes you might also get a diagram labeling, and also you can get a matching, as you can see here. We've got the letters to match with the numbers. And we also have a form completion and note completion. They are similar, as you can see, missing words. Also a flowchart completion, as well as a table completion, also a sentence completion. They all are similar, you just have to complete those forms with the missing words. Alright, and as you saw with the types of the words, we might actually divide them into 2 categories. One with right words or numbers you hear. So this is listening for details. For these types of questions, forms, completion tasks, and short answer questions, and sentence completion, you can just write down the words or numbers you hear. So it is to listen to the main details for you. And those types of questions might come in part 1 and 4. Here I gave you an example of them. So for questions 1 to 10 from part 1, you see it's a note completion, and also the questions from 31 to 40 from part 4, also a note completion. You will write words or numbers that you hear from the recording for these tasks. So this is gonna be for these two parts of the listening. And also we have this category of tasks. Choose an option from a list and write a letter on your answer sheet. So it's labeling a diagram, plan, map, matching multiple choice, as I will show you here from part 2 and part 3. As you can see, you've got the multiple choice, map labeling, matching, and so on. Well, as you can see on these tasks, we don't really have to listen out for some certain words, yes? We already have all the words. All you need to do is find the answers. So it's different than listening for details. You have to understand what is being said. When you do understand the speakers, it'll be easy for you to deal with this one. So you have to improve your listening skills. If you don't understand English speakers, then you have to train your listening skills through continuous listening to English podcasts, people speaking, and so on. Alright, now let me give you some tips. So, pay attention to instructions because they are very important, as if they say no more than 2 words, you can write only 1 word or 2 words. If you write 3 words, even if your answer is correct, it will not be counted as you did not follow the instruction of 2 words. And you might sometimes get an instruction like 1 word and or a number. It means that in addition to 1 word, you can have another number. A number though, not 2 numbers. As you can see here, 5th June, it's a number. 4 people, we've got 4 is a number. Although it's written in words, it is still a number, so it's 1 number and 1 word. It's correct. You can have a date, and 24, it's a compound noun, considered to be 1 number, and the price. Okay, I hope that's clear. Sometimes you can also get 3 words and or a number. In that case, you may have 4 words, but one of them should be a number. Okay, now let's move to the next tip. Listen to different accents. If you find British accent difficult to understand, then I suggest that you train your ears to understand this particular accent because it is very common in IELTS listening. Well, I can suggest you to listen to those people from those countries on YouTube, or you can also download this app called Radio Garden to listen to national radio stations. For British particular one, I would suggest BBC World Services radio station. Alright, now let's move on to the next. Improve your grammar and vocabulary. You will definitely see some improvement if you also improve your levels of grammar and vocabulary, as sometimes you might hear words paraphrased that's mainly to do with grammar, or changed by synonyms, which deals with vocabulary. And we also have to listen to difficult topics and native speakers who speak fast to make our brain work faster. Because if you do listen to those who speak fast English, you will find IELTS listening very slow. And it is gonna help you to focus on the questions and get them right and fast. And next, you have to analyze your mistakes. So it's very important that you do practice tests, and then when you get some mistakes, you work on them. You analyze them, why you made them, what kind of question you make mistakes a lot in, and so on. And next, before each section, you will be given 30 to 40 seconds. So if you did a practice test for listening, you know that at the beginning of each recording, you will have some time to look through the questions. Use that time to look at the questions. It really helps you to set your mind to the context and be fully focused on what you're gonna hear. And also, you can predict some of the words that you might hear, and it really helps actually. And next, always check your spelling. Spelling is very important. For example, the word accommodation is the answer. So how are you going to write it? So the word accommodation is written with double C, double M. If you write it like this, it's correct, you will get 1 point. But if you miss out one letter like 1C or 1M, then even if the word is correct, accommodation, the spelling is wrong and you don't get that 1 point. And lastly, you might hear names spelled or a combination of numbers and letters in part 1. So you have to practice saying the letters of the English alphabet. So for example, what is your name? Dina. How do you spell it? It's D-I-N-A. So that's how they spell names, and you have to get them right when they do. That's one of the questions in part 1. And lastly, be aware of distractors. This is a main trap for a lot of test takers. They might give you the answer at first, but then they might change the answer in the recording. So you have to listen to the recording fully, not just you hear the answer and you just rush to choose the answer. No, you should listen to that part fully to be sure that it is the answer, not just a distractor. You'll be familiar with some of them as you do some practice tests. Alright, let's go on. We've got recognizing paraphrase. Well, as I said earlier, the words might not come in the exact same way as they are in the questions. So for example, the word a price, you may hear it as a fee because a price refers to a fee. Well, a location, well, it is a palace. Well, they are not synonyms, right? But when you have the word allocation in your question and you hear it as a palace in the recording, you immediately know what they're talking about. They're talking about the location. And then funding, when we say or talk about funding, we usually mean money. And dangerous, you might choose it as risky in your options if you do have it. A solution is an answer. To transfer is to carry. Disadvantage, a drawback, those are synonyms. An effect and impact, those are synonyms as well. And it doesn't really mean that they're gonna be changed by synonyms only. They might come and in a different way, but the idea is kept. So we have to know about that, and let's talk further about attitude and opinion. Well, in section 1 and 3, we know that it's conversations with 2 or 3 people. And most of the times they are trying to make a decision or reach an agreement, So it's very important to identify their opinions because they'll help us to answer the questions correctly. So in sections 3, even and 4, we might be asked to identify a speaker's attitude. Here we've got some words and synonyms. We have to match them. For example, if a speaker says, "I'm worried," in the questions, we might choose the speaker is concerned. And then enthusiastic, eager, afraid. If they say afraid, you can choose the speaker is scared, confused, puzzled, irritated, annoyed, reluctant, hesitant, doubtful, dubious. Alright, and following a lecture or talk. Now, let me tell you about part 4 something. So part 4 is actually a lecture, right? Or a talk. And you might think that it's gonna be academic and difficult. Relax, it is not. Because look, there is a professor giving the first lecture to freshmen, the first year students from school. They don't know anything about the subject yet, and the professor still makes the lesson clear to the students. It's gonna be the same in the part 4. You will hear the lecture, but you will understand everything, even if it is on an academic topic. If there are some technical terms, they will surely be explained. So you don't really have to worry about that. And contrasting ideas. Finally, we've got some signposting words. I want you to understand what these words are. These words, just like this picture here, show us the directions where the speech is going. So, for example, if the speaker says, "Okay, now let's start talking about this thing. Now let me tell you about this thing. So I want to talk about that. I'd like to talk about this. I will tell you this," and so on. They are directing us. They are shifting our focus from what is being said to what is going to be said. So you can use these signposting words in your own speaking. It's very useful. And also for your writing. Now let's do last matching task here. Synonyms of the words written in the questions. So results. By results we mean findings. Definition, that is meaning, F. And challenges, we mean problems. History, that's background, advantages, benefits, disadvantages, drawbacks, answers, solutions, summarize, conclude. Alright, that's all for today, for this listening part. So these are gonna be helpful for you to do part 1 and 2, and of course practice makes perfect. Thank you for your attention.